Hello, today I'm doing a video on the card game Overseers. This came out in 2015. I just got it recently. I saw it was on a sale for only like $3 or something like that, so I figured I'd pick it up, give it a shot, and so that's what I've done. Played it one time. We're going to do a video on it, so let's get started with setup. Alright, the first thing you'll do is assign the leader card randomly to one of the players. The version of the game that I bought also came with this leader token, so you can use either one, this leader card or this leader token. I think I'll just use this token, but if your version of the game didn't have that, you can use this leader card. Alright, next the game comes with these reference cards, which you'll deal one to each player. But what you'll want to look at first during setup is the number of players you're going to play with. So if you're going to play with 3 to 4 players, you'll get these trait cards from the trait deck. So you would get 3 anger, 4 benevolence, 5 lust, 5 courage, 5 hope, and 3 greed cards. So you can see you got your angers, your lust, hope, etc. So you'll get the number of cards based on the number of players. If you were playing 5 players, you would get 4 anger, 6 benevolence, and so forth. So I'm going to set up for a 3-player game. So I'm going to get the number of cards shown here. So let me do that. Alright, so you see I need 3 anger. Got the 3 anger. I need 4 benevolence. Got my 4 benevolence. 5 lust. Got my 5 lust. 5 courage. 5 hope. And 3 greed. Alright, so I've got all those cards. I'll pick them up, form them into a deck, and shuffle them up. The cards that were not used just go back in the box. Should start falling apart on me. And we'll do one more. I actually shuffled them a little bit off camera, so they've been shuffled more than just that little 3 times. Alright, so there's our shuffled trait deck. As I mentioned, we'll deal 3 of these reference cards for 3 players. So got 1 player here, which is going to be my leader. Remember, that's randomly assigned. My other player here and my 3rd player here, and these are double-sided. One side, shows the amount of cards that are being used in the current game, and the other side shows the steps of the game. Next, you'll take these character cards, shuffle those up. You'll give 1 of these voting tokens to each player. And then somewhere nearby, you'll just put your scoring tokens. You've got some in values of 20, 5s, 1s, and 10s. Alright, that pretty much completes setup. So now we'll move on to how you play the game. So the game is played over 3 rounds. Each round is going to have several phases. You're going to have the deal phase, the draft phase, the placement phase, the vote phase, the judgment phase, showdown phase, greed phase, and finally the scoring phase. Then once that ends that round, then you'll start another round again with the deal phase. You'll do that for 3 rounds and then determine the winner. So let's start with the deal phase of the first round. Alright, in the deal phase, you'll shuffle the trait deck and deal 6 cards to each player. So let me get that done. Alright, so I've dealt 6 cards to each player. The remaining cards that were not dealt to any players just form a face-down discard deck. You'll then deal from the shuffled Overseer deck one character card to each player, which they have to show to all the other players. The other cards they keep in their hand, or they don't have to show those to the other players. And these character cards have basically special abilities that come into play during certain phases of the game, and you can tell what phase they come in to play in the game from the icon in the top left and from the text down in the bottom of the card. So next we move on to the draft phase, and the Fuxin character card, her icon and text here shows that she is played at the beginning of the draft phase. So it says take 3 random character cards that were not drawn this round and choose one. Fuxin will become that card. So basically you draw 3 cards from 3 character cards. The player that has this card draws 3 character cards, gets to choose one to replace Fuxin with, and Fuxin will just be discarded currently. So this player gets to draw 3, choose one that they want to keep. So we'll just, because we already had draft phase, we'll say this player doesn't want this one. We'll say they're going to keep this one, Mix You or whatever. And these other ones will just get discarded for now. Alright, then we continue with the draft phase, and the way that works is players will look at the hand of cards that they were dealt. They'll choose one, place it in their play area, or keep it and pass the rest of the cards to the player to their left. So all the players will do that, and so then once everybody's chosen one card and pass the rest of their cards to the left, then they'll choose another one of those cards that were passed to them, choose one to keep, and pass the cards to the left. You'll do that till each player has chosen 5 cards, and then they'll discard the last card to the discard pile face down. Keeping in mind that you're going to be trying to get the highest score, and the cards are worth a number of points shown here. So this greed card will be worth 2 points. The courage cards, if you just have one, they're worth 2 points. If you end up with 2, be worth 10 points for the both of them. And if you have 3 of them, that'll be worth 18 points. This player has a benevolence card, which you can see is worth 4. And hope cards are similar to the courage cards, where if you have 1, it's not worth anything, but if you have 2 of them, that'll be worth 6 points, and if you have 3 of them, that'll be worth 21 points. So we'll just say, for example, this player, they're hoping to get some more courage, so they're gonna, maybe they keep 1 courage and they pass the other one to the player to their left, which would be this player over here. Meanwhile, this player is choosing one from their hand, and then they'll pass to the left and continue on, as I said, until each player has chosen 5 cards, and the last card they have in their hand they'll discard to the top of the discard pile. So let me get that done off camera. Alright, so this player's chosen 4. He's had the last 2 cards passed to him. He's got to choose one to keep. We'll say he's going to keep this benevolence and discard this last one face down here. This player now got past their last 2 cards. They're both agreed, so they choose one, discard the other one, and this player chooses one of these to keep. Now, hope cards are only worth something if they have some others, and they don't, so they decide they'll keep the lust card and discard the last one. Alright, so that is the draft phase. Alright, next we have the placement phase, where the players will arrange their cards in 2 rows, 3 cards in the top row, 2 cards in the bottom row, and in the top row they'll end up, when you first put them out, all the players will place their cards face down. As I said, 3 in the top row, and 2 in the bottom row, and they'll all be face down, but then all players will simultaneously turn their top row face up so that all players can see them. Now, the player that has this card, the Lou card, as you can see, it says you're only required to show 2 cards face up in the top row. Your other card will be face down. So that's the power of this character card here. So let me get everybody's cards placed as I said, with 3 in the top row, 2 in the bottom row. So the players will place their cards like this, with 3 in the top, 2 in the bottom. Now all players have to flip over their top row to reveal their cards, except for the player with this power, which we just talked about, where they only have to flip over 2 of their cards in their top row. Alright, we've had the players flip over their cards in their top row. Again, this player, because of Lou's character power, only has to reveal 2 of their cards in their top row. And that completes the placement phase. Now we'll move on to the vote phase. And actually, I did that wrong. The other unrevealed card here is supposed to be in the bottom row, as it says here. Your other 3 cards will be face down in the bottom row. So Lou's power meant that this card should be in the bottom row, and only the revealed cards were in the top row. All right. As I said, now we move on to the vote phase. At the beginning of the vote phase, any characters that have a number 1, 2, 3, or 4 are then resolved in numeric order. We only have one of our characters that has a number, which is Mexu here. So since she's the only one, we'll resolve hers. If another player had a number 1 character, then you would resolve that ability before you resolved the number 3 ability here. But let's look at Mexu's ability. It says you can peek at 2 face down cards from a player of your choice. You receive 3 extra points that will count towards the showdown and scoring phases, and we'll talk about what that means shortly. But right now we get to know that the player with Mexu gets to peek at the top 2 face down cards from a player of their choice. So we'll just say they're going to choose this player and look at 2 of their face down cards. So they see that this player has a hope and another hope. Oh, so they know. Now they can't tell what they know, but they know this player has 3 hope cards, which is going to give them 21 points. Now what I will mention, if this player had 4 hope cards, the extra hope card is just worth nothing. It doesn't give anything over. And the same with the courage card. Like if you had 4 courage cards, you still only score 18 points. The 4th one is just not worth anything. But anyway, this player, having peeked at this player, knows that they have 3 hope cards and are going to score 21 for that. But that's that character's ability, and we will have to remember that they receive 3 extra points that'll count towards the showdown and scoring phases when we get to those. But otherwise, we've completed that character's ability. Now we go on with the vote phase. And what the players are now trying to vote on is who they think is going to have the highest score this round, knowing what they know from the cards that they can see from the other players. But you can't discuss any numbers, so like the player that had Mexu's ability can't say, yeah, I saw that player has 2 other hope cards. They can't say that, but you can try to persuade and bluff and say, hey, I think we need to vote for Lou, or I think we need to vote for Lanfei, or however you pronounce that. But the players can discuss amongst themselves and use their vote token. They'll place their vote token on the character card of the player that they think is going to end up having the highest score this round. And of course, you'll also use your knowledge from your reference cards of how many cards of what type are in the game. In a 3-player game, there's at least 5 courage cards, and there's only 1 visible. So there's 4 more out here somewhere. So you use your knowledge from the cards you know are out there. Now, one thing you know there's four more courage cards, but you don't know they're all dealt, because remember, some did not get dealt out and could be in the discard pile. So you don't know exactly what cards players may have, but you use that knowledge as well as just kind of whatever bluffing and persuading is going on to vote for the player that you think is going to have the highest score. So the Mexu player, they because they know the Lu player has got at least 21 points from the hope cards, and they know what they've got. For instance, just showing they've got 13, and then they know they've got another 10, so they know they've only got 23, and for sure they know that the Mexu player is probably gonna have more than that, because they know they've got 21 plus 2, so they know they've got an extra card, so they know that Lu has more than them. So although they just can't come out and say that, they're going to vote for Lu, so they put their vote token. Lu doesn't want to vote for themselves, so they're going to vote for Mexu, and we'll say that Lanfei, the player that has the Lanfei character card, just maybe they vote for the Mexu character card player as well. Okay, so that's the vote phase. The players will use their voting token to place on the character card of the player they think is going to have the highest score. Then the player who got the most votes for highest score, if there's a tie, then the player that has the leader token breaks the tie and decides amongst the tied players who is the one. At any time there's a tie in anything, the player with the lead player token or card breaks the tie. In this case, we don't have a tie. They voted for the Mexu, or for the player with the Mexu character card. And so now we go on, that's the end of the vote phase. Now we go on to the judgment phase. Okay, in the judgment phase, the player who got the most votes during the vote phase then has to either admit that they think that they're going to have the highest score, and if so, then they choose any of their two cards and discard them. So they get to choose which cards they discard. Or they can deny that they think they have the highest score, in which case we just move on to the next phase, which will be the showdown. So in this case, the player with the Mexu card, they know they're not the player with the highest score, so they're going to deny. They're not going to admit that they think they have the highest score. They're going to deny. Remember, if they did admit, they get to choose two cards that they want to discard. But in this case, they deny, so we just move on to the showdown phase. Alright, at the beginning of the showdown phase, if anybody had a character card that had an X in the top left of it, you would then resolve those characters' abilities. During this game, we don't have any, or during this round anyway, we don't have any character cards with the X, so there won't be any character card abilities resolved at the beginning of the showdown phase. So now we just go on and move on to finishing the showdown. Alright, the first thing that happens in the showdown phase is characters will reveal all their cards. Then players will calculate their scores. So this player has 3 courage cards, so that's going to give them 18 points, plus 4 for this benevolence is 22, plus 4 for this benevolence is going to give them a total of 26. This player has a total of 10, and 10 is 23, plus they get 3 extra points that will count towards the showdown and scoring phase, so that gives them another 3, so they have 26. So they are tied with this player, both at 26. And this player has the 3 hope cards, so they have 21, plus 2 from the greed is 23, plus 2, 25. So actually they did not have the most. So it's tied between these two players, and since this player is the lead player, they break the tie, so they break the tie in favor of the player with the Mexu character. So in fact, they did end up having the most points, and because they denied that they had the most points, they now get a penalty. And the penalty is they have to lose 2 cards that give them the most points. So in this case, they have to lose these 2 anger cards. Now, if they had not had the highest score, but because they had been voted on, if they had not had the highest score, then they would have gotten to take 1 card of their choice from the discard pile. So if you're voted on to have the highest score and you deny and you don't have the highest score, then you get a benefit of getting to draw a card of your choice from the discard deck. However, if you're voted on and you deny that you have the highest score, but you actually do, you have to lose the 2 cards that give you the highest score. And that's what happened to this player, unfortunately. So they had to give up the 2 cards that had added the most to their score. All right, that ends the showdown phase. Now we move on to the greed phase. So first thing in the greed phase, if you have a character that has the G up here in the upper left, then you resolve that character's effect. So let's look at this character's effect. During the greed phase, take all the greed cards from the discard pile and add them to your combination, which is your cards in your tableau. So let's look for any greed cards in the discard pile. It looks like there's just 1. Alright, so they get to add that to their what's called combination or tableau there. And then there's also a power or a ability here that you can't get robbed in the greed phase. So what happens next in the greed phase is the player that has the most greed cards. So this player just has 1. This player doesn't have any. This player has 2. So the player with the most greed cards gets to take 1 card from another player of their choice. Now, because this player has the ability that you can't get robbed, it can't be them. So this player is going to have to choose from this player. And they get to take 1 card from them, but the player that they're taking the card from gets to choose which card they take. So this player will just give them this card since it's the lowest value card that they have. Alright, and finally we go to the scoring phase of the round. Now if any player has a character card that has an S in the top left, then you would resolve that character's ability first. In this case, in this round, nobody has that character. So we just move on to the scoring, in which case players will take tokens that total the value of all their cards. So in this place, this player gets 28, because remember they had the 18 plus 8 is 26 plus the 2, so they'll take 28 worth of tokens. So we'll take a 20, a 5, and 3 1s. Now you have to show the players that you know the value when you first get it, but then you can turn them face down so that the players can't see the values of them. So I guess you're hoping they forget exactly how much value of coins you have. But each of the players will do that. Unfortunately, this player only gets 8 total. Oh no, they got the 3 extra for scoring, so they get a total of 11. So they'll take a 10 and a 1, and then they'll turn those face down. And finally, our player over here also has a total of 28 now, so they'll take 28 value in tokens. Alright, so they got a 20 and a 5 and 3 ones. And then they'll turn those over. The player that got the least amount, the least score, then takes the leader card or the leader token, and they will be the leader for the next round. Alright, then the players will take their voting tokens back. They'll discard all their trait cards. Discard their character cards. Both those decks will be reshuffled, and then we start another round with the deal phase. And we do complete another round: deal, draft, placement, vote, judgment, showdown, greed, scoring. So then you'll get more tokens, and finally one more round, a third round, the same again: deal, draft, placement, vote, judgment, showdown, greed, scoring. At the end of the third round, players will reveal all their scoring tokens, and the player with the highest score wins Overseers. When scoring for the win, if there's a tie amongst players, amongst the tied players, if one of those players never received the leader token or leader card, then they win. If there is no player that never got the leader token, or if there's a tie for players amongst the tied players that had never had the leader token, then the players that were tied just share the victory. Alright, so that pretty much explains how to play. We pretty much almost did an example round, but I'll go ahead and set up again, and we'll do one more example round and then wrap it up. Alright, so I think I'm just going to pick up where I left off and do, for my example round, I'm just going to do the second round of this current game that we're already doing. So the players have their tokens, got their voting tokens. We've reshuffled the trait deck and the character deck. So we start with the deal phase. So we will deal a character card. So we're dealing a character card to each player. And then we're going to deal 6 trait cards to each player. Alright, so I've dealt 6 trait cards and 1 character card to each player. The leftover trait cards and character cards just form our discard piles up here. And that pretty much ends the deal phase. Now we've gone to the draft phase, where each player will choose 1 card, keep it, and pass the rest of the cards in their hand to the player to their left. So we'll just do an example of that. So we'll look at this player, and maybe they want to try to get a courage card. So they're going to keep this courage card. They're going to pass these cards to the player to their left. And I will just mention that none of the character cards that we got have an ability that's useful in the draft phase, so that won't come into the play. Alright, these are the cards that were passed to this player. Simultaneously, they'll be looking at their hand of cards and seeing which ones they want to keep. Maybe they're going to keep this anger card, pass those to their left. This player is looking at their hand of cards, seeing what they want to keep. Maybe they're going to keep this anger card and pass those to their left. Now, so the first player would get those, and now look at the cards that they just received and choose one to keep. Now remember, last time they kept a courage, so they got these passed to them, so they want to keep this courage. So now they'll pass these to the player to their left, which is this one, who has these cards already in their hand, and they're looking at what they want to keep. So maybe they want to keep this anger. So they'll pass these. Now these are the ones this player got last time. Now they kept a anger last time. They're looking at what they got here. I don't see anything too good. I think they want to keep this benevolence. So they'll pass these to the player to their left. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the draft off camera. Alright, so this player got past their last two cards. They're going to keep this greed, and they're going to discard this one. Alright, this player got past their last two cards. They're going to, let's see what they've got so far. So really, this hope isn't going to do them any good, so they'll keep this courage, and they'll discard this hope. And finally, this player got their last two cards. Let's see what they got. They'll keep this lust, and they're going to discard this hope. Okay, that will end the draft phase. So now we'll move on to the placement phase. Again, nobody's character card comes into play in the placement phase. So remember, in the placement phase, the players will choose 3 cards that they're going to end up turning up face up in the top row and 2 cards in the bottom, but all the cards are initially placed face down. So let's look at this card. You know, they don't want to give away that they're going to get a high score, so he probably doesn't want to give away that he's got 3 courage cards. So for his top row, he's going to choose this lust and this greed and one of his courage cards. And then for his bottom row, he'll put his other 2 courage cards. Alright, this player, again, they don't want to give away that they're getting a good score, so maybe he's going to put this courage and this benevolence and this lust as their top row, and they'll keep these 2 angers as their bottom row. And finally, this player, they're going to put a benevolence, a lust, and a lust as their top row, and they'll put these 2 as their bottom row. Alright, once all the players have their cards laid out face down, then the players have to turn their top row face up. So we'll have them all do that. So all the players will know what cards they have in their top row. And now we'll move on to the vote phase, where the players are going to vote to who they think is going to have the highest score. And currently this player they don't know that he's got these other 2 courages, and so they're not sure right now. It looks like maybe he doesn't have, they think, well, maybe he's got at least one other courage, so they're thinking he's got 10, 13, 15. This player they're looking at, they're not sure. That looks like he's just got 10, and they're not sure what he's got down here. And this player, they're not sure, just guessing, maybe they've got another courage. They're thinking 10, 13, 17. So I'm thinking right now probably most players are thinking this one maybe has the highest score. But we do have an ability of this new young player that takes place in the vote phase. It's a number 4. Now again, if there was a number 1, 2, or 3, you resolve those in numerical order, but they're the only one with a number. So right now they have choose 1 card from your combination, turn it horizontally, and put it face down into any other card. That card will copy the one on top. Alright, so they can take one of their cards, turn it horizontally, and put it face down under any other one of their cards, and that card will take on the value of the one that's on top of it. So they're going to take this one and put it down under this card. and it's going to take the value of that one. So that's done before people decide what they're going to vote on, or who they're voting for that they think is going to get the highest score. So now people are maybe wondering, well, they took that 3 value card and put it under that card, so that one's probably going to be worth more than 3. What is it? Well, they don't know. So anyway, now people have to vote. So I think this player, the first player, he's still going to vote. He's going to take his vote token and vote on Liang. Well, Liang's trying to tell him, no, I'm not going to have the most. You know, you're crazy. I think old Nu Ying over here is going to have the most. So Nu Ying, so they're going to vote for Nu Ying. Well, Nu Ying, they're not sure. They know they don't have any hope or courage combinations, so they're not sure. They're not sure which one of these probably has that. But they do know that in the scoring phase, this player is going to get to steal 4 points from a player of their choice. And this player's power in the showdown phase, their anger cards will receive 2 more points, being worth 8 points each. But they don't see that they have any anger cards, so they don't think they're going to do too well. So this player is going to vote for Liang as well. Alright, so all the votes are in. Now we move on to the judgment phase. So this player now has to either decide whether they're going to admit that they think they're going to be the highest score, or they deny that they're going to be the highest score. So we know this player has got 2, or this player knows they've got 2 angers that are going to be worth 12. This is only going to be worth 2, so that's 14, 18, 21. They're pretty sure they're going to have a higher score than Nu Ying, and they're just not sure about what this player is going to have, the Su Yin character card player. They're kind of thinking that player has more courage cards. So, but they're not sure. So we'll just say they're going to admit. They think they're going to get the highest score, so they're going to admit, yes, they think they're going to get the highest score. So because they're admitting, they get to choose 2 of the cards of their choice and discard them. So they're going to choose these 2 and discard them. If they had denied, then when we got to the showdown phase, if it turned out they did have the highest value, then they would lose 2 cards that are giving them the highest score. So they wouldn't get to choose their 2 lowest in that case. So they weren't sure, so they go ahead and admit. Alright, so now we move on to the showdown phase. Alright, in the showdown phase, all players reveal all their cards. We know this one is going to take on the value of this one, so we don't need to reveal it. And we see then that this player does have 3 courage cards. This player does have the showdown ability, but again, we already talked about that they don't have any anger cards, so this that makes the anger cards worth more points really doesn't benefit them at all. They probably, I didn't take that into account when I was choosing cards. If so, I probably would have chosen some anger cards for that player, but I didn't. So now we go on. If this player had denied, then we would see whether they had to pay a penalty or not, but they didn't. Since they admitted, there's nothing really more to do in the showdown phase here. So now we go on to the greed phase. None of the character cards have a greed ability, so we don't have to take that into account. So now the player with the most greed cards gets to take 1 card from another player. And the only greed cards I see is this player has one greed card, so they get to choose to take a card from another player. And because it looks like this player is now scoring higher than this player, they're going to choose to take one from this player. But this player gets to choose which card they get, so they're going to give them this lust card. Alright, so that is the greed phase. Alright, now we go on to the scoring phase. So now the players get tokens that total their value. This guy got the 3 courage, so that's going to be 18 points. Plus that greed is 20, and 2 lust is going to be 26, so he'll get a 20, a 5, and a 1 for a total of 26. This player got the 6, and the card under it is equal to the same value, so that's 12. Plus 4 is 16, and another 4 is going to be 20. So they'll just get a 20. And finally, this player just has 16 points, so they will get. They'll take a 10. A 5, and a 1. I'll put those in their area and turn them over. But now they have this ability that takes place in the scoring phase. In the scoring phase, you can steal 4 points from a player of your choice. So they decide they're going to steal 4 points from this first player, so they got to give them 4 points worth of tokens. So they'll look at their tokens. There's 1, 2, 3, and they got a 1 up here somewhere. All right, 4. So they have to give this player these 4 points of tokens. Now the players can all turn their tokens back upside down and put them in their play area. So this person's got quite a bit now. All right. And that ends this round. So again, players would discard all their cards and character cards. And we would then do one more round. And after that final round, then the players total up all their points from their tokens and determine the winner by the person that has the highest score. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up. What do I think of this? Well, I think I need to play it. I've only played it solo, so you can't really get a good feeling for this type of game from that. I'll say when I was playing it solo, after the first round, I did not really care for it. But after I did my second and third round, then when I was kind of getting a better feel for how the game's supposed to play, what kind of the strategy you're supposed to do, I kind of started liking it a little better and thought, it might be a fun, quick filler game. It only probably takes 20 minutes or so. And so, yeah, I think if I have a chance, I'll try playing this with some other players, and then I'll get a better feel for what I really think of it. But right now I'll say I'm on the fence, but not bad. Better than my initial thoughts of it. But we'll see. I'll say it's a we'll see. I've got to play more with some other players to really decide what I think of it. But like I said, I think I only paid $3 getting it on a really good sale. So it's worth that for sure. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.